Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Badriatul Mutia. So today I will do my final task, discourse analysis. So for the first, I will tell you about discourse analysis based in theory of linguistics. In discourse analysis, the context of conversation is taken into account as well as what's being said. This context may encompass a social and cultural framework, including the location of a speaker at the time of the discourse, as well as nonverbal cues such as body language, and in the case of textual communication, it may also include image and symbols. Discourse analysis is one of the most popular qualitative analysis, the techniques we encounter at the Grad Coach. If you've landed on this path, you're probably interested in discourse analysis. But when you're not sure whether it's the right fit for your project, or you don't know where to start, if you have come to right place, so we can conclude that discourse analysis as linguistics is a method of analyzing the structure of text or utterances longer than one sentence, taking into account both their linguistics content and their sociolinguistics context analysis. Context analysis performed using this method. Differences between discourse analysis and error analysis in terms of linguistics and the content of analysis. So, in linguistics, according to Joe Richard at 2002, an error is the use of a word, speech act, or grammatical items in such a way it seems imperfect and significant of an incomplete learning. It is considered by Norris in 1983 as a systematic deviation that happens when a learner has not learned something and consistently gets it wrong. All the definitions seemed to stress error on systematic deviations triggered in the language learning process, or its indication of the actual situation of the language learner themselves, which will later help the monitor, be it in applied linguists or particularly the language teacher, to solve the problem respecting. One of the approaches agreed in the error analysis and ANFNAF 2017 defined that the occurrence of error doesn't only indicate that the learner has not learned something yet, but also it gives the linguist the idea of whether the teaching method applied was effective or it needs to be changed. According to Corder in 1976, errors are significant of three things. First, to the teacher, and in that the learner tells them if they undertake a systematic analysis how far towards that goal the learner has progressed, and consequently what remains for them to learn. Then discourse analysis in linguistics is known as a method of analyzing the structure of a text or utterances longer than one sentence, taking into account both their linguistic content and their sociolinguistics content. Analysis performed using this method, understanding the concept of discourse is a critical considerance to be able to understand the concept of this discourse analysis. Therefore, after discussing the concept of discourse analysis, the following discussion is going to present information. One of the concepts in discourse analysis is extracted from the literature research. Here are some course analysis, or the studies is a general term for a number of approaches to analyze written vocal or sign language use or any significant semiotic event. And the second is this from Stubbs in 1983. Discourse analysis refers to the attempts to study the organization of a language above the sentence or above the clause, and therefore to study larger linguistic units such as conversational exchange or written text. And the third is from Brown G. and Yule G. in 1988. The analysis of discourse is necessarily the analysis of a language in use. As such, it cannot be restricted to the description of linguistic form, independent of the purposes or function which those forms are designed to serve in human affairs. All of those definitions, there are at least four important components that can be used as a foundation for understanding the concept of discourse analysis as in easier way. For example, linguistic analysis, to analyze attempts to study, opportunity to study, to describe, and to identify. The second is linguistic process, language use, the organization of a language. And the third is linguistic product, written text, spoken interaction, interpretation of text and talks, language form, and also language function. And the fourth is linguistic quality, meaningful and significant. Therefore, components of Therefore, the components as specified earlier have simplified the formulation of discourse analysis definition, in which it is defined as attempts to analyze the organization of a language used in terms of written text and spoken interactions to identify the significant language forms and function. So that's and we will continue to the next. And the step I will tell you four steps. What is the definition? The first is about discourse and discourse analysis. I will tell you the definition. So the definition is actually different concept which need clarification here. Therefore, this section presents the description of the two terms to give clear understanding and how to distinguish them to avoid confusion, and also is a research method for studying written or spoken language. Written or spoken language in relation to its social context. It aims to understand how language is used in real life situation. When you do discourse analysis, you might focus on the purpose and effects of different types of language. The second, I will tell you the definition about communicative. Communicative competence is one of those terms which is so familiar that we not longer consider what it really means. Communicative competence we rattle of in teacher training courses or interested outsiders is our ability to use language in interaction to understand message and make ourselves understood in turn. And the third is about language form and function. So students use language function in order to express ideas, communicate with others, and show understanding of content in academic setting. Language form deal with the internal grammatical structure of words and phrases as well as the word themselves. The contrast between form and function in language can be illustrated through a simple medical analogy. If doctors studied only a limited portion of the human system, such as anatomical form, they would be unable to adequately address their patients' needs. To fully treat their patients, physicians must understand also about the purposes of the human body and the relationship between organs, cells, and also the genes. Posey in 2004 defines similarly else need to understand both of form structure and function or purpose of the English language in order to reach higher levels of proficiency. And the next is move. Move can be known as an asking for apologizing and asking question, answer, response, or even rejection or even rejecting apologizing. And the next is about the discourse pattern. The logical arrangement ideas of an expository text or of an oral presentation for informational purposes on will vary depending on the culture and the native language of the reader or the speaker. Well, finally, we are going to the part E or number 5. Well, so this part F, I will tell you about micro and macro analysis. So, micro analysis is chemical analysis on a small or minute social that usually records especially very sensitive or small scale appearance. And macro environment analysis is a part of company's strategic management that enables it to analyze the identify potential opportunities and hazards that might impact the business. The goal is to prepare management in advance with information that assists them in making operational decisions. And the second is cohesion and coherence. Coherence is defined as the quality of being logical, consistent, and able to be understood. Imagine the coherence as a building or it's an analogy, go with it. Cohesion, on other hand, refers to the act of forming a whole unit. It is effectively a subset of coherence. And the third is grammatical cohesive device. Cohesive devices are useful in English language. Conjunctions, traditional phrases, synonyms, and pronouns that express the ideas in a cohesive manner. They are used to join sentences together to make ideas more understandable to the reader. And the next is lexical cohesive device. Lexical cohesion refers to the way related words are chosen to link elements of a text. There are two forms, repetition and collocation. Repetition uses the same word or synonyms, antonyms, and many others. Okay, so thank you so much for the attention about my final task. I say wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.